Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I just came up with this idea a couple weeks ago because I have interviewed Tina before. I thought it'd be kind of cool if she interviewed me. I have no idea what the questions she's about to ask me are because I didn't want to know. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, this is some of this is stuff that we've talked about, but I feel like you've covered some of it in your videos and then maybe also not covered some of it in your videos.
Yeah, because
Um,
I feel like you and I have a lot of good conversation that doesn't get recorded. Um, so maybe that will be some of that will finally get to be seen a little bit.
that's what I'm hoping anyway. Um, so we're gonna start with just like a general question, just for people to get to know you a little bit better. So, is there something really wild or crazy you'd like to try after quarantine's over? And if so, what is that wild and crazy thing? Like, what's something you've always wanted to do?
Something I've always wanted to do, but have always kind of been scared to do would be zip lining, um, and potentially bungee jumping. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna rush out and go do those, but those would be really cool to do. Now, skydiving still freaks me out. So I don't know that I'd ever do that. Maybe some indoor skydiving with the fan, you know, so I don't have to worry about
Yeah,
my parachute not deploying. Um,
right.
but yeah, but other than like wild and crazy stuff, the thing I'm most looking forward to is just like going out to eat again. I know I order in a lot, but just going out to a restaurant and just being out in public. Um, so, and just to be not afraid to hug people anymore, because I'm tired of not being able to hug. I'm a hugger, and
Oh,
it's
I
time to quit.
know. I know. I socially distantly visited my grandma the other day. We just like sat out on the porch and talked to her from the house, and she wanted to give us hugs. And I was like, no, like we can't really do that. I would feel really bad if I did that and got you sick. It was just weird. So,
I know it's like, and I can't really shake your hand. You're not supposed to anyway. So it's like, okay, bye. Um,
right.
but I'm awkward at goodbyes. I either like to hug you or something. So.
Yeah.
But we will get to the day when we can hug. So
All right. Well, on the note of zip lining, just so you should know, there was some kind of zip lining or something where we were supposed to go in uh Portugal this summer on our trip. So, next time around, if you accompany us, maybe we'll just zip line in another country and take two things off the
oh,
list.
that would be awesome. I'll have to get a passport, but I got time now. So
Yeah.
I'll add international traveler and bungee or zip liner to my resume.
Uh-huh. That would be pretty cool. So kind of moving on to still kind of talking about COVID-19 and family, still not. How is your family? How has like not just mom, dad, but your brother supported you on your cerebral palsy journey, um, in general?
Um, as far as COVID-19 or just in the scope of having CP and
Just in general. I mean, I've had conversations with other people that have siblings that have disabilities, and I just find it interesting, the stories of how
right.
our siblings help
Well,
us all.
My brother has kind of always been like my number one supporter. Like he's one that's never been like, well, you can't do that. He's one of those that like, I'll help you do that. Um, some good examples. We've gone river, like floating down the river, but where they get out is like a huge like incline. I'm like, I don't know that I can do that. And he's like, I got you. And he was sitting there like pushing me up the embankment to get me up. But um he's always been there for me. And I remember one of my first surgeries, when I was coming out of the anesthesia, my first thing was, "Where's Steve?" Um, I don't remember it,
Oh,
but that's what I was told. So he has always been, he always helps me when I need him. I can always count on him. So I'm like forever grateful for that. So I hope he watches this video. Um, but
oh yeah, no, I think siblings are just really special, but I can speak from my experience too with the disability. It's even more special when they're helping you, to push past those obstacles. So
yeah,
it's great that we both have somebody that we feel like does that for us.
yeah, and I mean, I think Steve and I would be close like without the CP, but I think it has added an extra tight layer of like, he watches out for me all the time. Like it's just we're like super close, and we're 4 years older, or well, 4 years apart, I should say. He's 4 years older than me, and it
Uh-huh.
maybe when we were younger there was, like but now it that 4 years doesn't matter at all. Um, and I mean, we're super close, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Um, and I don't know without him, or my parents for that matter, where I would be. So to imagine him not being like, I can't imagine him not being supportive. Just
Right.
because he's never, he's never made my disability an issue, even when I was younger and didn't accept it. He accepted it more than I did. Um,
Right.
so, he helped me get there too. And that's what I have a lot of people that have helped me um, kind of grow into my disability, and you're included. Um,
Well,
so,
I'm just so glad. It's just so nice, because what we want is for people to not see us as our disability. And I feel like our family members are some of the first people to do that. But you're right, we're fortunate that we have each other and then we have other friends that,
and I
same,
feel like I should say, and not family doesn't have to support you with CP, because I've heard some stories about people not supporting. But I'm so grateful that my family has, they've done everything they can. My parents taking me to doctor's appointments, my brother making me feel like I belonged, that I could do things that he was doing. Like without that as my foundation, I don't know. I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to this point, or even if I would be at this point. So
I guess we never know. And yeah, I do think, we're all fortunate to have those of us that have the family support. We're fortunate to have that. And my next question for you kind of goes along with that one. You talked before about your journey in accepting your disability, and I know that I think that I can say for me, my family helped a lot with that. Um, but the question is, do you have advice for those that are struggling to accept their disability? Is it something that just takes time?
my biggest advice, and you're right, it definitely is something that takes time. So don't feel like you have to rush in accepting your disability. But my biggest advice would be to talk about it, because for the longest time, I wouldn't talk about the fact that I didn't accept it. I would just keep things bottled up because, I had a pretty good life. What should I, why should I bring it up? I'm happy. My family loves me. I'm good. Like I shouldn't be sad about it. Why should I be sad about it? But it's okay to be sad about it, and it's okay to let people know that you are struggling with it. And as soon as I realized that I needed to talk to somebody. And as soon as I unloaded all of that, you know, through my parents, my brother, my friends, then that weight kind of came off of my chest, my shoulders, and I could be free about it. Um, and,
Right.
and not feel the judgment. I guess what I was most afraid of would people be saying like, "Well, why do you feel that way? You shouldn't feel that way." Like trying to
There was
invalidate.
sort of
Not
a
that,
fear
yeah,
of people not thinking that it was like the real deal.
yeah. And I should have given my parents and my brother a lot more credit than I did, but just at the time it was something that like I can't talk about it. And little did I know, even though I wasn't talking about it, my parents knew that I wasn't happy, you know? Um, so here I'm trying to hide it. And here I thought I was doing well. I wasn't doing that well.
They
So I would have done myself a lot more good had I just said, like, I'm mad. I don't like this. What can we do? You know, what can I
but
do?
I think part of that comes with the age too, that,
Right.
when we're in our early teens, we don't have the coping skills that adults have. So it just, some of it's age too. It just takes us longer to express and admit when we need help, because we all know that, you know, people with CP, or at least everybody I know, is pretty darn independent and doesn't just admit that they need help, right off the bat.
Right. Because we need help on so many different things, especially growing up. Now I'm, getting more and more independent, but, as a kid and young teen, I needed help with a lot of things. And so there were things I didn't want to ask for help because they were already helping me enough. Like I guess in my own way, I was like, well, they already helped me enough. They don't need to help me anymore. Um, because they're already doing so much for me. Um, trying to give them a break, I guess, when talking to them gave me a break from the feeling of like, why am I different? Why was I born different? I wish I wasn't. What can I do um, to change this? And my advice is don't think that you have to change yourself. What you have to do is just grow into yourself. Um, because the person that you are, in my view, is who you are meant to be. Um, so I personally believe that I have cerebral palsy to do something with it, to be a positive voice for someone else, to kind of break down those stigmas. And that's why I think this channel is part of what I'm supposed to do. So I would
Right.
say you should never have to change yourself. It's just learning to love yourself. And that takes time, quite a bit of time. Um,
Definitely. Some great
and
advice.
so, and shout out to all my CP group in high school because that did a lot too. When you had,
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be where we are without it. So,
because it is one thing to have your um, family support and your sibling support, but when you have other kids, teens, young adults around your age that go through the same things that you do and can relate on a deeper level than, say, your parents or sibling, it's very freeing to be like, so I had a bad day this morning because, you know, I fell and I hurt my knee, or oh, my braces are bothering me. Oh, yours too? Or man, the cold weather's really got me all tied up and like my calves hurt. Or, you know, you just
right.
understand it on a whole nother level when you're like,
Yeah.
me too. And that does a lot when you can have a I had a group, but even just one other friend that has a disability, it makes a world of difference to
It
have.
does. You don't feel so different anymore.
Yeah, when you're surrounded by people that are like you, it stops feeling strange and it feels normal. And that's what high school really did for me, was I really, it stopped feeling strange, and like, these are my people and they're like me, so I can be me, CP and all. And then that's not to say that high school was, I got to high school, I met all of you, and then things were fine. Then I went off to college and still was growing more, and I started the RSO, Student Disability Network, and just that got me more in touch with people with disabilities away from my hometown. And then, it's a learning process still.
Definitely, but I think that you're moving in the right direction. All the time you're doing more and more about something that you care about. I mean, it's really great. It's really great to see you growing into this so much because I've known you for a while. So
Well, thank you. I'm glad.
keep it up.
That means a lot, because it's
Yeah.
one thing to feel the inner growth, but when someone like says like, yeah, you've grown a lot, it's like, oh, like it's noticeable. It feels
Well, I
good.
think we're our own worst critics, Kyle. So, I think that I've probably grown too in ways that I don't notice. But yeah, I think sometimes we have to learn to love ourselves and to give ourselves that validation. But it's also nice to hear it from somebody else too.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, we're talking all about friends and staying connected. So this really next question really leads kind of nicely into this. How have you been taking care of yourself during quarantine? How have you been staying connected? And is there anything that you kind of wish you would have told yourself when you were younger about staying active?
Oh, for sure. Well, during this quarantine, definitely in the social aspect of just dealing with quarantine and cerebral palsy, definitely talking on the phone, video chatting, um, just having someone to vent to. Because when you're by yourself dealing with a disability and you're having a bad day, I know sometimes I can get very frustrated and mentally drained. So having social media and technology and even making YouTube videos, it's therapy for me. Just to unpack the thoughts that build up when things just aren't going how you want them to go. Um, in terms of staying active in quarantine, well, thankfully, I have an exercise bike that I got right before quarantine started. I have an ab workout machine that I bought from Amazon. Guilty of online shopping. um, Stretching, just trying to do some physical activity, even if it's not, 10 minutes of exercise. That goes a lot farther than I used to give it credit for. Because I still feel like when this is over, I'll be able to enter the world and not feel like starting back at square one, in a sense. Um,
Right. It's better to do something, I think, than to do nothing. I mean, got to start somewhere.
because what I'm realizing now as I'm getting older, like the more sedentary you are, the harder it is for your body. Like you can be doing really well and then go sedentary for however long, and then your body just doesn't bounce back to where you were before. Like you have to maintain it, or it's rough.
Right.
Um, um,
Agreed.
so my advice to anyone with any form of disability right now in quarantine is just try to do some activity, whether it be like flexing your ankles, um, just to loosen them up. Leg lifts, going back to high school PE, like arm circles, head rolls, um, just stretching, so just doing
I mean,
something 5 minutes a day will, I think, because it's helped me quite a bit thus far. I'll be curious to see how it is when I'm actually being more physically active. Um, but I feel good. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel like heavy. I still feel like I'm good. I mean, I'm not saying I'm great, um, because I'd really like to go to the gym, but that's something that summer is gonna help benefit with is setting up the pool and being in the water. So just try and do
sure.
something. And even if it's not every day, maybe it's not every day, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, um,
Right.
Tuesday, Thursday, you know, make a
Yeah, and
make
just
a
to put
schedule
some
for
other
yourself. Yeah. Make a schedule for yourself that works for you. Um, and not don't worry about what's working for someone else because that might not work for you. Um, because I'll be guilty of saying that seeing you do so well, I'd be like, well, why isn't that working for me? Well, we're different people and our bodies are different. I'm almost 6'1", you're 5'2". So our muscle,
not either.
yeah, our muscle structure is different. So
Yeah.
what's working for you won't work for me necessarily, and what's working for me won't necessarily work for you. But be on your journey, um, and kind of only focus on yourself. Because it's really easy to look at someone who's doing so much better than you are, whoever that is. You see somebody on TV, on Facebook, and you see somebody, and wow, they're going on hikes and, they're so active. It's like, well, that's not me, but that's okay.
Right. We all have to do the best with what we've got. Um yeah, comparing yourself to others never tends to work out the best with anything.
Yeah, because I feel like instead of motivating, it almost, you know, it could motivate you in a sense, but then the reverse is also true that when you're seeing someone who's in a different spot than you are and is quote unquote doing better than you are, it can also be discouraging. And it could also force you to overexert yourself to try to match them. So I would say, you know, just do what your body can do. Um, And that's especially true because, like, right now, I haven't been using my crutches all that much, like I've said before, because I'm not really going that I'm not really going anywhere. And home is my solace. So I definitely haven't been, it's going to be weird using my crutches again. I will say that. It's going to be weird.
Well, same for me because I don't use my crutch in the house. So it's yeah, it's different.
Yeah. But,
There's definitely going to be, I think, an adjustment period for anybody after all this is over, but especially for us. But with things getting back to normal too, hopefully we can get back to feeling like ourselves and setting and meeting some new goals. um do you have any big goals for post quarantine? Any physical goals, personal goals? Like what's your big, is there a big motivator right now that you're looking ahead to through all this?
um, well, in general, the thing that motivates me is my niece, just to be able to pick her up and feel stable enough to not be scared to drop her. Um, but something I'd like to work towards, just as a goal, like a short-term goal, would be like doing another 5K, but also like planning for that 5K and like training for the 5K and not like, you know, I want to do a
Um,
5K today and then, I definitely the next 5K I do, I would definitely like to make it to 2 miles. I made it to 1 mile. I'd like to make it to two. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna finish the whole thing because
hey, but no, that's a great goal, and that's a great improvement. I mean, to walk twice the distance that you did, and
so I don't know when the next 5K will be, but I definitely want to get out and walk and, you know, build up my endurance because that's what I lack.
sounds like a great goal. So really, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
That's actually all I had for questions. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to
no, I think
discuss.
we covered quite a bit of. I really like those questions because they weren't necessarily questions that I thought you were going to ask. So like, and that's why I didn't want to know the questions either because I didn't want to plan like a could like you gave me the question and I already wrote my response and now I want to read it to you. Um,
Well,
everything,
you're not like that. You don't
no,
plan. You're very off the cuff, and it usually works out well. So,
I hope so. But yeah, that's what I want, anyone watching this to know. Like, I'm trying to be as real and honest about my disability. Um, and I hope that inspires other people to be honest um, and open about it. Um, So thank you for wanting to interview me. I just thought it would be interesting because I've interviewed you and a couple other people, and I just thought, well, why don't we reverse it and see what happens?
yeah,
So,
no, this has been fun for me too. It was kind of fun to brainstorm some questions for you. I felt kind of like an evil scientist over here, like, ooh, what can I ask Kyle that his viewers are gonna want to know about? So,
well, and I wanted it to be you, not only because you have CP and you can relate so much, but because you know me, this, so well that like, you know, could you stump me with any? I was curious to know like could you stump me? And I think you did a good job because as well as it may seem that I answered these questions, I had to do some thinking. So
I think that if you would have asked me those very questions, I would have been very stumped. So I was kind of impressed with how you did because I thought to myself, I thought, "Ooh, am I going to totally stump him, or how is this going to go?" But at the same time, these were questions that I felt like would be really good to touch on. So,
well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
all right, well, you
Well,
want to tell
yeah.
everybody your
I if you enjoyed this interview, please like it, share it. Please subscribe to the channel. I post every Tuesday. Tina here also has a YouTube channel. Um, I'll link it down below. So please go subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.